Hi, I'm Gypsy Bast, and I've developed this series for you to get flexible. This is three-part series, the flexibility for the lower body, one for the upper body, and another one that's for the entire spine and the mind. It's super important to keep the body warm, and I'm going to take you through a developing phase so that by the time you finish this, you're not only going to feel longer and taller, but much more supple. And that brings relaxation and ease. So I look forward to having you join me again and again. And start with me on this one. Until then, blessings. Namaste. Hello, friends and yogis. Today, our lesson is our third part of the series of Yoga for Flexibility, and it is for the spine and your mind. Having a flexible spine, yogis say, is the essence and the key to longevity for life. When the spine is flexible, it's talking in every single way through all the different nerve endings to all the different organs of the body, the different glands of the body, all the systems of the body are working in harmony when the spine is flexible and also in harmony. Please be careful today if you know that you are working with an injury, if you have any herniated discs. Be careful as you do any sort of forward bends. I hope you know these. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to write into us here at Sanctuary Wellness and ask more questions about the spine. I have a lot of expertise in that, but we only have a short period of time today, so I'd love to get started. And before we do, I want to ensure that you are warm. So as I'm in the jungle here, it's really warm and balmy. That allows the body to already open to be flexible and take a greater stretch. If you are at home and you're in a cold environment or you have a lot of air conditioner on, I want to advise you to layer up. Maybe turn the air conditioning off for just this 30 minutes that we practiced together today. Okay? When you're ready, you've gotten all bundled up, come back and join me with the hands together at the heart. Let's close the eyes. May our practice today bring flexibility to our minds. May we be able to see with love, kindness, and compassion. May we realize that there are infinite and multiple ways to do things, see things, and feel. Each and every one of us, unique and special. So may today's practice bring the flexibility not only to the mind, so that we can be at ease and at peace, but that we bring it into our spine for longevity, health, and wellness. Namaste. Please bow into the earth, already stretching the spine. And then inhale, sweep the arms up, lift out of the vertebrae. Exhale, bring the hands back to the mat behind you and arch the back. Drop your head. Inhale, sit up and just gently walk back down. Drop the head. Walk over to the right and then sit up tall and twist your spine. Drop the shoulder blades down, pull the navel tight, and inhale into the lungs. Exhale, twist a little deeper. Release back, change the cross of your legs, repeat. Inhale, reach up, lift out of the kidneys. Exhale, lean back, arch the spine. Inhale, lift up, and exhale, bow forward all the way. Come over to the left, sit up tall, hand to the knee, hand back, twist the back. twist the kidneys, the lungs. Pull the navel in. Shoulders draw away from the ears. Inhale, twist deeper. And exhale, even deeper and tighter. Good, release there, beautiful. Join me on your hands and knees, please. Hands in alignment under the shoulder blades, knees underneath the hips, distanced apart as wide as the hips and your own shoulders are. Let's take 5 cat and cows. We're going to inhale into mad cat. Bring the breath into the upper back. Exhale and lengthen. Lengthen the belly. Inhale into the chest, into the upper back. Exhale, empty the belly. Fill up the breath. And exhale. Remember to add that your chin is deeply pushing into the chest. And then lengthen the throat. Look up into the sky. One more time. Inhale into your back. Tuck your pelvis. Exhale, look up. Now, yogis, we're going to do a circle. The head and the hips. The head and the hips. So these go together. They breathe together. And reverse direction. So the head and the hips move at the same side to side. You can even look over each shoulder. And one more. Beautiful. Then sit back into child's pose. Open the knees, take the toes together, sit back onto your heels. Take your hands into tripod fingers. Keep reaching, reaching, reaching. Lengthen out of the hips and rest in child's pose, head down. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, flatten the palms, lift up. Tuck the toes as you inhale. Lift the hips back and up, down dog. Exhaling. Okay, yogis, we're going to move from down dog to up dog, rippling through each vertebrae, one vertebrae at a time. So here's what we want to do here. As you see, I've lifted my head, but I don't want you to lift your head until the last minute. We will start always at the base of the spine and we'll end in the head. So if you want to watch me for the first one and then join me, we'll do about 8 of these. I call these like a little tiger curl. So we're going to start back in dog pose. Lift the tail and the heels, then curl the tail. Drop the hips down and come up to up dog with the toes still curled under you. We want to interlace our inner thighs and open the heart. Now going back, you're going to also take the tail back by pushing with your hands and then ripple all the way, and then the head is the last to drop. So it's a big roll and back. We're letting our spine undulate, okay? So it's a bit like this, undulation of the spine. Here we go, friends. Inhale to lift. Exhale, undulate forward. Inhale. Exhale, push back, undulate back. Inhale. Undulate forward, drop, and keep the arms straight and strong. Exhale, push back. Head is last. Come back and rest on your knees. And I want to talk about an easier way to do this. So really good job for trying. I know that you'll be able to come back and practice this with me again. But right now, we're going to try it again with a different intention. The intention now is not just about the body, the spine, the physicality, but we're going to get our mind into this. So I want you to use your imagination and imagine that at the crown of your head, you've got like a little bird, what do you call those? Like a little bird crown. And that's coming up from the pineal and the pituitary gland. So at the top of the spine, as it comes up into the brain, in the lower part of the brain and up to through the brain, it's going to bring all the energy up into the two top of the head glands. At the bottom of your spine, you have what's called the coccygeal gland. So imagine you've got tail feathers. So you've got tail feathers of a bird and crown bird feathers here. And in the middle of these glands, these are very important, right? The glands of the body. The coccygeal gland, it's located between the coccyx and the tailbone. And then we've got the pineal and the pituitary gland at the top of the head. And these energies between the two is how we're going to ripple our down dog and up dog exercise. So this is the spinal fluid now that we're going to move through. And if we can move from the coccygeal gland through the fluid into the top glands of the skull and then back and forward, let's see how that feels. Why not give it a try? Maybe we'll discover something new. Plant the hands. Using the mind. Here we go. Initiate at the coccygeal gland. Ripple through the spinal fluid all the way up to the top two glands of the head, pineal, pituitary. Then I'll let the coccygeal gland lift you back. Softly float down the head. One last time. And then rest in child's pose. Gently begin to roll up onto the knees. Make your way into the center of your mat and notice how you feel. I hope that you could feel a softening there as I did. Really, really nice. All right. Now we're going to work with moving from rabbit pose to camel pose. Arching and curling. So we begin to also take the fluid of the spine between these glandular points in the body and move from an open heart to a closed heart. Or in opposition, you could also say this way is the open heart, and then when you go this way, it's a closed heart. So working with the front and the back of the body in alignment with the rib cage and the pelvis. Nice. So in rabbit pose, what we want to do is get the head as close to the knees as possible. We're going to hold our heels. And for this practice, I want us to keep our knees fairly wide. Holding your heels on the outer edges here. We're going to curl forward, lift the hips up. And we're going to bring the knees close to the body, into the head. Going to inhale to sit into rabbit. Then if you can keep a hold of the heels, wonderful. If you need to let go and lift up onto the knees to reach back or just to the lower back. So level 1, we're going to come up onto the knees, hold the lower back, and bring the heart and the chest up. Pitch the hips forward, squeeze inner thighs, and drop the head back straight with the ears back to camel. So inhale to rise. Hold the heels, take the head down, and go back to rabbit. So we're essentially going from one to the next, okay? For more intermediate advanced people, you're going to take the hands to the heels so that as you lift from rabbit, you can go straight into camel. It looks like this. Sit. Curve. Sit. You thrust the pelvis up, roll the chest forward, lean back. Sit, curve, round, rabbit. Sit, lift, take the ears back. And then let's all rise up and rest. Whew. Now this is super beneficial, not only for the spine, but because it takes a lot to overcome the mind when we're doing these sort of motions. The mind often creates a block already without even trying something because it's advanced, it's dangerous. I want you to make sure you're careful. Like I mentioned at the beginning, please note if you have an injury and don't always do everything, and know that you can work your way up the more you do this practice with me, okay? So as we move on now for the spine, we're gonna go from just rolling up from Uttanasana, forward bend. We'll be rolling up the spine, and then we're gonna be taking a big open-hearted extension back. If you have lower back issues, please bend the knees on the roll up in the forward bend, okay? So bring the feet down to the mat. If you need to, take a block for stability. We're gonna keep the feet at hip distance apart today. Soften the knees, spiral the inner thighs backwards, and lengthen the body and fold into Uttanasana. We're going to be using the pressure of the feet to push down. And as the feet push down, the tailbone is going to draw down to the mat, and then the belly is going to lift up as we roll up the spine. Once we get up to standing, we're going to lift the shoulders up and send them straight down into Tadasana. And then from Tadasana, we're going to push down into the ground, lift the heart and the chest. Take the arms up overhead. Pitch the hips forward and see if we can just trust ourselves to go up and back. Rising up and rolling to reach down. Slowly, one vertebrae at a time, rolling, rolling, rolling. Soften the knees and fold. Let's inhale together filling up your diaphragm. Exhale, push down through our feet. Drop our tail to the ground. There's our anchor. Standing, looking straight ahead, roll the shoulders down to Tadasana, mountain pose. Ground into the pelvis and your feet. Inhale, arms up by the ears. Exhale, press the hips forward, press through the feet, and open the chest. Inhale to rise, and exhale, we try that again, rolling down the skull, drop down the body. Soften, bend the knees if you need to. Inhale and exhale to push down with the feet. You can see that you're going to activate the belly, pull in the lower ribs. Arms just come back down by your sides. We're going to roll them up and back, standing tall. Inhale up and lengthen, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, press down and lift up. Inhale to rise and exhale to release. Excellent. Bend your knees now. I'm going to turn to face you. And let's take our feet nice and wide and come into Malasana. If you need to, you can sit onto a block and just come into a nice open area of the hips. Okay. If you don't need Malasana, if you don't need the block in Malasana, just put it off to the side. Find the best ratio for your hips to sink, your tail to sink, and your elbows to come in and down, and lifting our prayer up into the sky and closing our eyes, pausing here, finding the flexibility in our mind, even in the challenge. Sending our breath into our lower backs, our hips, our pelvis. And then gently, when you're ready to come out of this, bring your hands to the mat in front of you. For me, I'm just going to turn so you can just stay where you are, hands in front, and step back to downward facing dog. Lift your right leg up into the sky, and we're going to practice pigeon pose. Inhale. Exhale, bend the knee. Bring it and turn it out. Drop the knee out to the outer edge of the mat. Open the foot. And as I showed you when we did the hips and the lower body flexibility, we wiggled when we were working on Hanumanasana splits. I want you to wiggle down into pigeon pose. And if you need to, block yourself up by putting a block underneath you, under this back thigh. If you don't need it, that's wonderful as well. Everyone's different. So wiggle a bit left and a bit right. And then take this foot here and lift your thigh and just kind of guide it back before you put the foot down. We are trying to get this hip forward. Now, this is a tail flexibility. So remember those tail feathers. A mind flexibility. Remember the crown of your head feathers. Move a little to one side and back to the other. And then come into the middle and make your way down. You can be on your forearms, Sometimes it's nice to stack your fist and put your forehead down on your fists. You can completely reach forward, lay down. And if you like to do a prayer of prostration and open the shoulders, all are good. And each time you practice, you can practice new ways. It doesn't always have to be the same. This is where we can begin to stretch our minds and stretch the ways that we do things. Because when we do something the same way again and again and again and again, it just becomes a habit. And the thing with habits is they're always going to be exactly the same unless we choose to try it a different way. Like brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. Or, do you always eat the same thing or go to the same, direction every time you go this way and that way? Try a shortcut or try the long way around. Or maybe cook your food in a different way. There's always new brain connections and new wires that we can neurologically begin to activate. So remember that as we open the spine and flexibility as well in the mind. Let's come all the way back up. This helps to arch the lower back, getting flexibility in the spine. And then let's return to downward facing dog. So plant the hands, lift your hips, slide this leg back to the knees, and come back to downward dog. Let's ripple one time into upward dog using the tail feathers to the crown feathers and back. And then second side, sweep, left leg up. Bend the knee, curl it in, and bring it and to turn it out. Knee to one side, open the foot to the other. Begin to make your way down, wiggle, wiggle. This foot can keep stretching that back thigh. Find your way, block underneath your back thigh if you need to. We walk to one side, push the hip, change, push the hip. We're building that garden, opening the seeds under the pelvis. Take a moment to lift out of your seat and then exhale to release and stretch from your tail feathers of the pigeon to the crown of your head. Blocking your head with your fist or a block, or taking the arms straight out, or I'm going to come to prostration and say a little prayer for all of us to get out of the monkey mind and remember that we are all one awareness, the awareness of what is right now, what is going on. Just observe and feel. Okay, yogi friends, inhale to come up. Plant the hands, exhale, bend the knees, step back. Let's take one last down dog and up dog. Rolling through the tail, spine, all the way up to the mind. And releasing back, dropping the head. Let's take the knees down. Turn over onto your backs. laying down and stretching our lower spine now. By coming into happy baby pose, I like to take my 2-piece fingers and hold my big toes. And also grab the outer edges of the feet. Up to you. Both ways are quite nice. Close our eyes and rest here. Exhale, release your arms to the mat. Draw the legs together. Bend the knees and twist the knees to the right. Twisting the spine for good health and closing our eyes and resting any thoughts. Allow them to pass. And let's inhale through the nose and exhale with an open mouth. Changing sides. Inhale through the nose and exhale with an open mouth. Rolling back onto the back. And for beginners, please be careful because we're going to practice plow pose. If this is not your practice, I want you to just simply bring the hips up into bridge and practice rolling up and down one vertebrae at a time using the legs, okay? So if you don't want to go upside down and flip, especially ladies, if you're having your cycle right now, your moon cycle, let's not go upside down, but you can practice just rolling as you see I am. This is so good for the spine. For intermediate advanced yogis, or if this is already something you know in your practice, we can come into halasana and plow pose by taking the legs up and over, press through the back of the arms and the hands. Back of the head presses down. You can interlace the hands, rolling up onto the shoulders. You can also hands on your lower back. And if you're very flexible, some people like to drop the knees down by the ears in what's called like the little folded bird. That's not really a good one for me. I've had neck issues, so I don't like to drop my knees down by my ears. So if you have any neck problems, keep the head on straight and use your upper back and arms for stability. Slowly, let's release and roll down. Use your core strength, use your stomach, abs, strength of the back body. And as we come down to the ground, we'll meet everyone else who's been in bridge with the feet down. Lift your pelvis. We're going to slide the hands under and do the opposite curve for the back of the spine and the neck and the mind in fish pose. I love fish pose. It's so good for the curve of the back of the neck. Cervical spine gets a nice release here. And we go right to the crown of the head, the crown chakra, back to the earth. So what we want to do is bring the elbows in. Hands are under each butt cheek. Lift the heart and the chest, roll the shoulders back. Stretch the front of the throat and bring the top of the head to the mat. You can either continue with the feet on the floor. You can stretch the legs out in front of you flat. Or for more advanced yogis, You can lift them up at a 45-degree angle. Use your drishti to focus on the world at its upside down level. Lengthen and grow. Soften your edges. And return to the breath and the sounds that you may hear around you. Take a deep breath to prepare and release the posture. Come down onto your back. Take the hands and the arms out. Legs open and the arms open wide. We finish today's practice releasing everything, especially our minds of any chatter. And we rest in our Shavasana. Let's close our eyes, relax our jaw. Let go, melting into gravity, that beautiful force that keeps us connected to our earth planet, our home. Let's let out one last open mouth exhale and go into stillness and silence. You may stay in Shavasana as long as you like. If you're ready to come out with me, deepen your breath. Allow your belly to rise and fall. Bring some subtle movement back through the arms and hands and wrists and fingers, legs, knees, feet, ankles, and toes. Bend your knees, maybe give them a hug. Give yourself a well-deserved hug. And roll over onto one side to prepare to make your way back up to seated. Let's give thanks to our mats for providing us the space to stretch, grow into our flexibility. Thank our space and thank ourselves. And then join me if you'd like to close the practice, sitting comfortably. Let's take our hands to our heart center, close our eyes and bow our heads. Just notice any new sensations throughout your spinal column. Feeling the spinal fluid moving up and down and doing its beautiful intelligence through the nervous system without you having to tell it to. and just rejoice in that magnificent miracle that this body brings to us. I hope you have enjoyed the practice today and you can continue growing and practicing with me again and again. It's been a deep pleasure. Sending blessings to you, your friends, your family, and may all beings be free from suffering and find peace within. Namaste.